Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chef Night with the Writer team and Chef Jude.
How's it going?
Fantastic.
I'm looking forward to empanadas. I've never had one. Not even with apple stuffed in it? No. Well, hey, remember those cherries jubilee that we did last month? Yes. Now put that in an empanada.
Ooh.
Well, as a matter of fact, Chef, I had a pork shoulder. And so I made it, roasted it, had a little leftover. So then I took the pork shoulder, the leftovers, put it in some green chilies, and maybe we could put that in an empanada. We could put anything into an empanada. All right. So guys, whatever you have out there, if you want to get creative with your empanadas. That's right. Let's do this. That's
right. All right. So we've got chicken and olive empanadas tonight.
Yep.
Our pomegranate mojito. Excited to try that one tonight. Yes. And then tell us about a sweet fried plantain.
We're going to be making fried plantains. You're familiar with the plantain?
Yes.
It's like a banana, but it's not a banana.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're going to do, it's a real simple process. It's just slice them up, drop them in the fryer, a little kosher salt, nice little sweet and savory addition side to our empanadas. We're going to be making chimichurri.
Oh, I love
Chimichurri before. Adding mint to it, we recognize as a authentic Argentinian chimichurri, and we're gonna do, I believe, the same thing today. Nope, the mint is gonna be for mojito. So this one's gonna be more of the
Venezuelan,
the Latin chimichurri.
Oh,
so very similar. It's a fresh ingredient. It is like making pesto. So if you make pesto, if you're Italian, the chimichurri is essentially the same thing.
Oh, interesting.
Only difference is we're going to be adding vinegar into the chimichurri, and the pesto we wouldn't add any. So fresh herbs, oil makes like the pesto. Adding the vinegar, the sour or the acidity into our fresh herbs would give us the chimichurri.
I love that. I love that you can kind of tell us the differences there. So mise en place.
Mise en place.
Let's do this.
First and foremost, we have our array of fresh herbs. We're going to need lots of these today. Everyone at home, we've veered from the recipe slightly of the empanadas due to the chicken process, due to time constraints.
Right.
We've got everybody a rotisserie chicken. I have deboned mine. The easiest and the best way to do so is, I imagine it's in the refrigerator. Pop it out of your refrigerator into the microwave 2 to 3 minutes. All we're doing is we're breaking the chill on it so that way it comes off the bone easier.
Okay, so start that now.
Yep, just
pop
it in the microwave, 3 minutes, you're good to go. We're not reheating the chicken. We're just breaking off the refrigeration cool, right? So we're changing the temperature to make it easier, because what happens to fat when it gets cold? Coagulates. Very good. You're learning.
I know it takes me a while.
So it gets hard. Butter gets hard when we refrigerate. Butter's fat. Once it gets cooled, it gets hard. Harder to take our meat off of the bones. If we heat it up a little bit, that fat softens, makes it a lot easier to do so.
Okay.
So
then what you did is you took it out and then you cut off the breast, it looks like.
Yep, I just popped the breast off, which is a simple process. Remember when we dissected chickens, if those who were not in the class, this was our chicken beforehand.
Yep, just so we understand.
Besides this one. So your breast, right? What I did was I popped the legs here. They pop right off. Peel all your dark meat off.
Got it.
Okay, make sure you don't get any ligaments in there. You want to keep those away from it, because you'll never be able to chew the ligament.
Gotcha.
And it's a very distinctive identification between what the meat is and what the ligament is. If you're not sure, pull your meat apart. Your ligament will not pull apart. Okay.
Gotcha.
From here, your breast, you're going to want to take your knife and go straight down and just slide it right on your breastbone here.
Okay. And
then as you start to open it, you can do that. If you've heated it up enough, you can just open it, and then you'll be able to essentially rip this breast right off. And the only meat that stays on is what's connected right here. And you can dig into this and get as much of it as you want. I recommend get all of it you want. If you like making soup, put this in a Ziploc bag, throw it in the freezer.
Gotcha.
I know it's not quite soup season,
but it's still good. If you have a cold, chicken soup is always great.
I've heard the cold has been going
Yeah,
around, so it is nice
absolutely.
to have something like this. And doing your chicken like that to your soup, making the broth or the stock, once we've added the bones to it, we're now making broth. We're extracting the bone marrows, which make chicken stock as opposed to chicken broth, where we're just giving it a chicken flavor, right?
Right, absolutely.
So we have our chicken
Okay, so
there.
we did that.
We have a thing of oil on. We're gonna fry the empanadas
Okay,
because that's traditionally what you've done. The recipe, we were baking them because we weren't sure when we were going about this, how we wanted to execute on live night. But since we're gonna do the plantains and fry them, we'll go ahead and we'll fry the empanadas as well.
so as we're frying the empanadas,
Mhm.
maybe give us an alternative, show us what we would do if we were gonna bake it in lieu of, in case someone prefers baking.
A healthier option.
Healthier option.
If you want to do the healthier option, our recipe provides you with an egg wash. So in order to get that golden brown crust on the outside, it's beat an egg. So whip up one egg and add water to it.
Okay,
If you do one egg, 1 tablespoon of water will be more than enough water. And all that is to thin out the egg so it doesn't make scrambled eggs on top. It just gives it the gloss that you're looking for.
perfect.
You could use pan spray, but it's not gonna be the same as an egg wash. So
Right.
like when you get a pie and it has that nice golden brown crispy on top, that's because it's been egg washed.
Okay, and then what would we put our oven on?
350 is fine.
So if you are gonna cook it in the oven tonight, throw your oven on at 350, right?
Yep. Go ahead and do that.
Perfect.
We want to make sure that our empanada doughs are pulled out. Just like we said, due to time constraints, we've purchased you the doughs already. These are good products. So this is product that's been tested and true. They're typically or found in your freezer section
Okay,
because you'd want to keep them frozen until we go ahead and work with them.
okay,
If they are frozen, you're going to want to pull those out and thaw them as quickly as possible.
what's the best way
defrost.
to thaw?
Defrost in the microwave, not cook. There's typically a defrost button, or if not, then you're going to power 0.5, so 0.5% of the power, and then just do a minute at a time until they're pliable.
Okay,
So you can see that our dough, we can make a taco essentially, because if they're still frozen, they'll break. We don't want to do that. So
right,
they
you
are
wanna be able
pliable.
to make them pliable.
Absolutely,
Gotcha.
yep. So we're gonna let these sit right here, kind of over by the
Alright.
heat, so they can kind of do their thing as we get going. Our other ingredients, we're gonna be adding some olives into our empanadas, some other spices. We got some crushed red pepper, some cumin. We got the fresh herbs for that as well. We have our plantains. So plantains, like I said, is like a banana, but it's not a banana.
I know.
Okay, so all your plantains should be roughly like this, ripened. We want ripened plantains. Hannah says banana right over there. Oh, the plantain will work. Yeah. So here, grab that one too. You better.
Grab this plantain. How do you know that this is a plantain?
Since you have a banana, we can show you.
I mean, other than it's fatter.
Look at the difference here. Okay, when we go to cut into it, the texture of this is slightly different than the banana.
Okay.
This is going to be more mushy. The plantain is going to be more firm. That's why you're able to drop it into the fryer. It'll withstand the fryer.
Gotcha.
The banana in the fryer may or may not.
So it
If,
might fall apart.
if your
Break it
banana was green like this, it'll hold the fryer. Okay. If it was ripened like this, definitely
No,
not going to
right,
hold
too
the
mushy.
fryer. Absolutely. It just turned into mush. right?
Gotcha.
Also, there's a lot of moisture in banana, so lots of water content.
That makes sense.
That's gonna, our fryer, we don't wanna do that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So,
good to know.
If your
We have a
plantains are like this, it's okay. We're preferably looking for a ripened one. If they're not like this, the best thing to do would be put these in a paper bag and put them in somewhere that's gonna be at I would wanna say between 75 and 90-degree temperature.
Okay.
So whether you're leaving them
outside
out on
these
the
days.
counter, today was a great day.
Exactly.
Leave them out on your counter for maybe 1 to 2 days. You're looking so that way, these spots indicate that they've naturally released sugar.
Okay.
right? Just like a banana, the healthiest time to eat a banana is right when it starts to get its spots. You prefer it when it's green?
I kind of like it just when it's done being green, like even before all the spots. I
So
don't
as
like the
it's
brown
bright
inside.
yellow, right?
Bright
Well, no
yellow.
brown inside. Just because the spotted banana has the spots on the outside, doesn't mean
I
it's
feel
brown
like
on
that
the
means it's
inside.
brown on the inside.
But,
That's my own.
and everyone likes are different, but,
Yes.
so the banana has its highest antioxidant value when the spots start to form. So it's
Oh,
the
good to
best
know.
time to eat the banana. It's
Wonderful.
when the sugars are at the maximum too. So yes, as it gets darker, put them in the freezer, make banana bread, pancakes, you'll be good. But so our plantains here, that's what we want. Nice ripened plantains.
Great.
And then we have our mojito stuff, our pomegranate juice, our rum, our fresh mint. So everyone's
where do we start?
microwave, hopefully everyone's chickens come out of the microwave by now.
Yep, I would think so.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's start with the mixture. Actually, let's start with chimichurri, so that way chimichurri.
Can marinate.
Exactly. The longer you let it set, the more the flavors marry, the better it is. Right?
Perfect.
So you can make chimichurri in advance. You can make chimichurri 30 days, 45, 60 days in advance.
And keep it in the refrigerator?
Don't keep it in the
Oh, okay.
refrigerator. You could keep chimichurri in the refrigerator up to 10 days.
Okay, good to know.
Probably safe to go a little longer, but your safest bet is 10 days. If you know you're not going to use it within 10 days, throw it in a Ziploc, put it in the freezer. When you're ready to use it, pull it out, let it come to room temperature. You're ready to go.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, let's start the chimichurri.
All right. So what we have here is our handy dandy tool, the Vitamix, they call it, our little mini food processor. What we want to do here is we want to add our fresh parsley. So cilantro, parsley, oregano. This is a flat leaf parsley. And we're going to rough chop this just so that way it breaks up easier. We're going to rough chop all of these because of that. Let's look at this oregano. So with these oreganos, like thyme and rosemary,
Right.
this stem is
Yeah,
very
yeah.
coarse, right?
Yeah.
So we are going to want to strip the leaves from these just like such. So if you hold it where your stem is firm enough, you can just run your fingers down and pull them off. And then you can pop off the tops because we're going to do that. So we'll show you again. Once you see where that stem is firm enough, you can hold it. So you go a little lower, and then you pop those leaves off just like that. If you have TikTok, which majority of people do, they say to go ahead and put it in a cheese grater and then pull it out. I don't like to clean the cheese grater, so this works just as effective.
Good comment. Yeah.
Because
I mean, clean it.
right, because you pull out the cheese grater and it's a simple hack, they say, but as you can see, that's
It's
just as simple, right?
And less to clean.
Yeah, that's how I.
Sometimes cleaning, you don't want to clean up more dishes.
So as we've learned over our 2 seasons of cooking classes, keeping it clean in the kitchen, right? Cleaning as we go, utilizing one pot, how to do that.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to make 17 pots for one dish, right?
Absolutely.
The thing that cracks me up is zuppa di scano, the Olive Garden soup.
Right.
Have you ever made it?
No.
Okay, so if you follow the recipe, you will need 4 different pots to make this soup. If you use 4 different pots, you'll never make a really great soup.
Because it's not all marinated together.
Exactly.
So you're separating it.
If you use the one pot, all of the flavor is in one pot. So you capture everything. We deglaze. We don't lose anything as opposed to this and this and this.
And then just dumping it all together in the end.
And then you're done, right? So then you're kind of like, oh, this is good. As opposed to, holy cow, the richness of it.
Right.
All those flavors marinate together. So
good tip. I love it.
that's what we look for. So
absolutely.
we're going to rough chop. We're going to need 1.25 cups of parsley. So this is about a cup. Do a little more here. And I'm just trying to pull the tops off. I'm not trying to get into the bottoms of it. We don't want a lot of stems. You know, like for this occasion, I'll show you. Just like with the oregano, we don't want any of this into our chimichurri because it's hard to break this
I
down.
understand.
But all these stems that are up
And the
top
tops
here
really
are
nice.
gonna be fine because they're thinner, so they'll
Right.
break. They'll be able to be easily incorporated. Here, we can set that aside, it's fine.
Okay.
So then we're just gonna rough chop. The only reason we're rough chopping is we're breaking it down so that that way it breaks down easier in our food process.
Gotcha.
Alright. And our oregano, same thing. For the oregano, we're going to use 1 cup. So let's pull a couple more here. Oh, good there.
Yeah, awesome.
So using fresh herbs as opposed to dried spices is such a world of difference.
Right. I mean,
Um,
we've noticed it just in cooking with you the last couple seasons, a much different flavor. So we've been actually using it more personally than we
Yeah.
did sort of the dried spices.
And like, so here's an example, like, this is the beauty of this. You bought these at the store, we threw them in water, we made them vibrant, we brought them back to life.
Right.
The reason they continue to add water at the store is so that way they can stay or they can preserve them for as long as possible.
Right.
As they dry, they lose the integrity of the fresh herb. Now they'll continue into a dried spice, but they'll lose that fresh herb integrity, right?
Right.
And there is a difference in the flavor.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the whole freshness, just the vibrance of it. It's not, I think when you use fresh herbs, they're not like as pungent. Does that make sense? Like
Yes.
a dry spice kind of has like I would
It's like
say
an aftertaste
it's
of
almost
some
like a
sort.
bitterness
Yeah.
to it on the palate, right? So we want to make sure that in this application, we're not using that. Could you use dry spices to make chimichurri? Yes. Is it going to be the same? No. So always trying to use the freshness. Like we said, it's like pesto, it's like salsa. You want to use fresh product
Right.
to get a better result, right?
Right. I definitely can see the difference.
So then we're gonna dive into our cilantro here. This guy, we're only gonna need about 1/2 cup.
So how's everybody doing? You guys keeping up?
Do we have any questions so far?
Any questions in the chat box? We have Maria Manning instead of Jennifer tonight.
No question.
No questions.
No questions. Everyone's doing good. All right, we'll take it.
Marianne said hello.
Hi, Marianne. Good to see you.
So then we're gonna take
All of our trilogy people.
our garlic cloves.
Okay, gotcha. And Chef, you frequent out at Trilogy these days.
I didn't want to say anything, but I have somehow become a celebrity in the Trilogy Rio Verde community. I just did a birthday party. I catered a birthday party out there last month, the month before. And yes, I met 15 people at this party that join our class and have
Awesome.
learned and continue and look forward to all that we do. They've all shared with me their favorites and what they want to do.
Awesome. We love that.
They said the quiche that we shared with them just last month was one to definitely put in the
It was a
books.
lot of fun. I know Marianne hosted a party at her house. So
Yeah,
that was great. So we love that. We love just being part of the community too. So we're excited
and
about
the
that.
teaching, you know, like when we started, it was all about, you couldn't go out to eat. Remember when we first
Exactly, it was
started?
COVID.
But then we showed everybody that where you like to go eat, you can do it at home.
And a lot more
And
fun.
invite your peoples over and then wow them with the things that we learned.
Absolutely.
So,
No, it's a lot of fun.
we need some olive oil.
Okay.
We need some lime juice and we need some red wine vinegar. So olive oil, I put our fresh garlic in.
Gotcha.
This guy says we need about 3/4 of a cup.
We have more.
I'm going based upon what I see in the bottom here. That's probably all of it. And we'll assess once we get going. We'll be able to see. Adding less at first is better with our liquids.
Than
'cause we
overdoing
can
it.
always add more, especially with the olive oil. Once you get heavy on the olive oil, it's hard. You're gonna just add fresh herbs and
Right.
it'll be okay. You're just gonna end up making more. No
Gotcha.
problem with that, right?
Right, because it's great to have around.
That's right. And then we're gonna need salt here. And some crushed red peppers. This is to add a little bit of love. I know here we like it to be
Like
a
it
little
spicy.
So we'll add that. And then we're gonna pulse at first until it breaks up everything. Let's add our vinegar. So all we did was we just broke it down a little bit. And at this point,
It's almost like it just kind of mixed it together a little bit.
yeah, because the oil in there, once we put the oil in there, it's gonna create kind of like a paste. Once we put the vinegar in there, then it's gonna give it the liquid that we need. So all we're doing is just breaking it down a little bit more. We want to go along the edges so that way you don't have big chunks. For chimichurri, you want it to be a nice fine chopped product.
Right, right. Gotcha.
This guy's gonna be a quarter of a cup. Right about there. Take a look here, give it a mix. We're gonna add a little more oil and we're gonna add a little more vinegar. See how it's real pasty looking here?
Yeah.
We want it to be slightly looser than that, okay? Adding more olive oil is gonna do some of both. It's gonna help make it tasty. Yes, but it's also gonna help loosen it up too. The vinegar is where the water content comes into play. So that's just a little bit. This is a little bit. So remember, when you freeze this, or if you freeze this, it will look like a block because that oil.
When you want to use it after you've frozen it, do you thaw it?
Yes, you're gonna.
Maybe thaw it to room temperature?
You can leave it. The best way is in the refrigerator overnight.
Okay, so
That's
that
the
just
best
automatically
way.
is gonna thaw.
Yep.
Perfect.
If you're in a pinch or you forgot, by all means, you could put in a bowl of water. You're talking less than an hour will probably be good.
Right.
Just cold water, let it sit in there. You'll be fine. You won't have to let it run because you don't want to waste the water. Number two, all you're doing is
Breaking it
thawing it
apart.
out. Yep, you're just thawing it out. So in the microwave on defrost, seconds, and you'll be there, right?
Gotcha.
At the end of the day.
Good to know.
So you
Because
see,
sometimes we're never sure if we can freeze it, but it's nice to know. we
you
can.
see how much looser we
Oh,
are,
yeah.
right?
Definitely.
So let's do a little taste here. See what you think here. Everything should be good. Yeah, what you're looking for is the oil overpowering or is it too much vinegar?
I think a little too much vinegar.
Okay, so then we'll add a little more oil to it. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Because that's what's gonna cut that, right?
Right.
But the chimichurri has that flavor, right? So our fresh herbs is what really makes that. So you see a little bit more looser there, right?
Right, that looks good.
So we can set this aside.
Okay, so leave
Now
that.
you
set
use
that.
the mint for the mojito.
You betcha. So we can set this aside. We don't want to refrigerate this right now.
Okay, so it's
Because
just
if
sitting
we
on.
refrigerate it, it'll turn into a block.
Right,
We want it to stay loose like this, so it's okay.
gotcha.
Just let it set.
All right,
So then, let's make our,
Yeah.
we want a mojito?
Nope, I think,
Let's-
let's get this going.
Let's
so
get
we
our
can-
chicken rolling.
Yeah, let's get the chicken rolling.
Okay, so what we've done is we've taken all of our chicken off the bone. All we're gonna do is we're gonna chop this small so that way we gotta remember, we're gonna be filling our empanadas. And what we'll do is we wanna look at our empanada dough, right? So how big is our dough? Our dough's gonna be a disc about this big. How much of this are we gonna fit in? Do we want a chunk of chicken like that in there? That's what
No.
you ask yourself,
Yes, you
right?
want it even,
And you
from
wanna
learning from experience.
you want it to be small enough. So all we're gonna do is chop it up so that that way it's small enough. And all we're doing is going one way. And then we're gonna go the other way. So that that way we can get a smaller dice, right? A better defined dice to it. So any of these bigger pieces we can break apart. I mean, you can just pulse it in your food processor if you wanted to.
Okay,
You
good
can
idea.
make it as fine as you want. The finer you make it, the less integrity it has.
Right, I was gonna say that maybe even less flavor in a way.
Not necessarily flavor, but the integrity. So when you eat it, it'll be eating like a ground chicken taco as
Got it.
opposed to taking a bite and recognizing, oh, that's a piece of chicken. Right?
Gotcha,
So what I've done with the breast is I've cut it in half, butterflied it,
gotcha.
opened it, and then we'll make our slices this way, almost like a julienne cut. And then when we turn them, we can determine how big we want our dice to be.
That certainly makes it easy when you cut it that way. Quick and easy.
And less knife cuts as possible.
Right,
So if you take your breasts, you're gonna cut it in half here. Then you're gonna make your determination on how thick our dice is gonna be this way. So you'll make as many cuts, the more cuts, the smaller, the less cuts, the bigger. And then when you turn it, you can determine how big you want that to be by as many cuts or least amount of cuts.
gotcha.
So that's that. I'm going to want to add some olives. So these guys, kind of the same thing. I'm going to pull some of this water out.
Yep, always wanted to take that excess water out.
And these guys are the same. So you can spend time one-on-one if you want, but we're going to be able to rough chop going one way. And as you saw, I kind of try to set them all setting the same way so that that way, as we cut one way, we're cutting all the same. And then when we go ahead and turn them, we're then cutting them the opposite way. And for this, you can determine how much you want to add, right? How much
Yeah.
do you want in there? For as much chicken as we got, let's see, let's add some more. So as you saw, we're just gonna make first initial cut.
Okay, you always make it look so easy when you're chopping.
If you wanted to, you would then just take your knife,
You turn it.
keep your tip down, and then just rock it across. Utilizing the claw technique, keeping that thumb out of there, it's what you want. Last thing you want to do is lose a digit.
That's for sure.
Nobody wants a thumbnail in their empanada. So so you see here, we have that. We want to saute real quickly
Okay.
some of this and some garlic. So same thing like the olive, we want to determine how big. Should have showed you one way to do it. So one way to, I'll show you like this. An easy way to cut onions into dices is to leave the bulb on. And then you make your slits this way to determine. This way breaks up the onion, right?
Right, right.
This way determines how big do we want them. And then this way determines how big we
I'll
want.
take it right.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll get a pan going real quick, a little saute action. And we're just gonna quickly saute the onions and the garlic, and then we're gonna add them. our recipe called for sauteing the onions, the garlic, and then adding our raw chicken to it. So we were cooking the chicken into a pan, right?
Right, but in this case, since our chicken is cooked already,
We're simplifying.
we're simplifying.
That's right, we're shortening our steps. So from here, it's just gonna be garlic and onions. The reason we wanna cook our onions in this application is because we don't want the raw onion. We want the caramelized onion.
Exactly.
We want the flavor profile. So having that difference is huge to our empanada. You could use raw if that's the flavor you're looking for, but you really want to have everything cooked. I mean, obviously the olive is brined and it's cooked in the brine essentially.
And obviously the onion's gonna cook down as well, so it's gonna be softer, blend
That's
in the flavor.
Really what you're looking for is softening up the onion.
Right,
When you soften up the onion, what are we doing? We're adding flavor.
Right.
Because we're caramelizing, right?
Yep.
As we caramelize, we release sugars, we change the flavor profile. It just brings more depth into
absolutely.
what we're doing. So let's crank this guy on high. Remember, high heat, little bit of fat means saute. This will take about 2 to 3 minutes for these onions to
Kind of break down a little bit.
saute down, yep. And all we want to do is just do it till they're a nice translucent color. So considering the amount of onion we have there and the amount of chicken here, you think we add a little more onion or you think that we're good?
I kind of feel like you're good.
I feel like the same. I feel like that was half an onion. I feel like that's going to be a good ratio.
You don't
of
want
onions and
overpowering
olives.
onions.
Exactly. We want to make sure you're able to taste all of that when you take a bite.
Right,
Of it.
and
Yep.
not just have an onion empanada.
Yeah, because it'll overpower. This is
Yeah,
a very
totally.
pungent thing that you want to make sure that we're not going to overpower, right? Ooh, empanada dough is nice and soft. While that's cooking down for just a moment, we're going to grab a baking sheet. We're going to want to get parchment paper or wax paper.
No parchment paper.
This should be okay.
Okay.
The main thing is you want to make sure that your dough's not going to stick while we're
Right.
working, right? Just like when we were making pizzas.
Right.
So you see, we're looking
We're
at the
trying to
caramelization.
caramelize, yeah,
So that high heat,
breaking it down.
yeah, absolutely. So all of that, right? And since I am a chef and we have it, and it's gonna go right along with it. We're,
Throw a little bit in there.
we're gonna deglaze. We're not gonna do it quite yet. We're gonna give it a minute. We're gonna allow the sugars of the onion to come out, right? And we wanna capture all that. So
Right.
we'll hit it with a little bit of dry. And by a little bit, I mean like maybe a capful is all we'll need, because we don't wanna add a lot of moisture, right? All we
Right.
wanna do is strip all the fond, all those sugars that have been released that are stuck to the pan. We wanna collect that
And
so
put
we
it
can
in.
put it in our empanadas. That's right.
Make it even better.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you see, look how
Right.
it's starting to caramelize up, and you can see in the pan here, all these dark spots that are right in here, that's all sugar. We want that. Some people are like, oh no, that's burnt. It's not burnt yet, because if it's burnt, you'll smell it, right?
Got it. Yeah.
Just because the smoke alarm's going off doesn't mean it's done. Usually it's done before then, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you see our onions are starting to get a little translucent. Some of the big ones are almost there, but if you see, we'll leave this spot here because we'll recognize that fond as soon as we add this.
Wow, you can see it immediately pull it from the pan.
I mean, pretty much stripped it all the way. You could see just about immediately how brown it
becomes-
was. It stripped that up. So any acid will do so. You can use water but water's not gonna strip the pan. It will release some of it, but it's not gonna take it all off, right?
Got it.
And that's what we want to do.
Excellent, good tip.
So then here, we're all good to go. Let's put this into our chicken mixture. Smells delicious.
Oh, it smells great.
Because now that is gonna be in our empanada, right? So if we didn't do that, like you said, the last thing you want is to take a bite of this empanada and then crunch, 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 and have that raw onion flavor as opposed to this caramelized onion flavor. So then we're gonna wanna add our spices here. So we have some cumin, which we're gonna wanna put in this.
What are some things you can use for deglazing?
So any type of acid. Traditionally, you wouldn't want to use vinegar. You could, if that's the flavor you're trying to do, like balsamic vinegar. If you use balsamic vinegar, it has a lot of sugar in it, so it's gonna want to stick to the pan even more. Soy sauce, same concept.
There's a lot of sugar in it.
Worcestershire. Those are acidities that when you add it to the pan, it adds more sugar to it. Okay, so
So what's gonna
Worcestershire,
take away?
alcohol. Okay,
Always
wine,
alcohol.
any type of spirit. Like I said, you could use water. It won't strip it like we just saw.
Okay,
It'll take some of it, but we pretty much cleaned the whole pan.
right.
And all we used was a cap full of rum, right?
And it burns off.
And remember, I've been using bourbon lately.
Yes, and we've been using bourbon lately. Everything seems to be a bourbon something lately.
Bourbon's delicious.
I know, a lot of people, it's
And
seems to be the
when
first
you
choice.
cook with it, it is really good. So we have some ground cumin seed. We're gonna wanna put some of this in here. You're not gonna wanna go too heavy, but just enough. We're gonna wanna put some crushed red pepper in here. Because as we know, we like it a little spicy.
A little, oh, it's starting to smell really delicious. Everybody, what do you think? It's starting to smell great.
Yeah, now that we're incorporating these other
Everything, all the
flavors.
flavors and cooked up the onion, smells great.
So we've got that mixed up well.
Did we make the mojito yet?
We're
We
about
have
to.
not. Steve is waiting for the mojito. And how many of you out there are really looking forward to that mojito? And I bet some of you have tried it already. We're gonna hit that next.
Yes, the mojito was something I was very interested in because I love pomegranate.
I think it sounds amazing. I haven't,
Story behind pomegranates is there was this house that was walled up. It lived on like an acre in the middle of the city, and we would jump the fence, run all the way across the yard, and grab as many pomegranates as you could get, and run all the way out of the yard before someone said, "Hey, get out of my yard!" Right? But as a kid,
So,
we looked forward
borrow
to. They gave them away.
okay.
I mean, they had like 5 trees, and they would have bags out
Okay, kind
in
of like
front
on
of the
lemon.
house. Yeah,
Got it.
except we got them before they put them in the bag.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
Those seeds out.
so that's another piece, right?
That's for another show.
So we're gonna need a shaker. We're gonna need a muddle.
Got it?
We're gonna need our rum. We're gonna need simple syrup. Little sparkling water.
Oh, and we have the fresh. So now
We will be
we
able.
are gonna be seeing the seeds,
That's
Mr. Ryder.
That's right. We will do so. All right, so
There's one.
we're gonna want to get our lime. We are gonna want to just have the
Mint.
leaves only of our mint. I'm gonna start off by just breaking them off of the stem, and then I'm gonna tear them as I put them in there.
Okay,
The only reason being is we're just speeding up the process of the muddling, right?
right.
So we're releasing the flavor. When we muddle, we're breaking out the oils that are in the leaves. And that's what really gives it that pungent flavor, because the oil of the leaf is what's been released. So I do not recommend using dry mint for a mojito.
No, I mean, the smell alone, you could tell it's so fresh.
Yeah, and the
and
beauty
it
is
makes the
this
drink.
can sit in a pot on your back patio or your front porch and grow all the time. And you can pluck it and rinse it and use it it's just all the time. This basil, rosemary, it just grows.
So get little pots and you can just grow it on the patio.
Yeah,
So that's what Steve is gonna be doing on our patio. He's out there in the morning. He's gonna grow his little fresh herbs.
the Ryder herb garden.
We're gonna try it. I'm tasking.
Get your
Steve with
son
that.
involved and then it's Ryder and Sons.
Yeah.
Good, I like it. I like it. So what we're gonna want to do is in our shaker, like I said, we're just gonna tear our leaves apart. Because what we're doing is we're helping the process in which we muddle. So we're gonna need, it says 8 large leaves, so we'll do just that, I suppose. We're gonna put our simple syrup in here.
You can make simple syrup or you can purchase it.
You can
Really,
purchase
either
it.
way.
Yep. So simple syrup is equal parts sugar to water. All you do is bring it to a boil, let it simmer, let it cool, and that's it.
That's it.
So half a cup of sugar, half a cup of water, bring it to a boil, let it simmer for 10 minutes, let it cool. Jar it, have it for as long as you want.
Gotcha.
You could throw a mint in there once it starts to boil, and then you have mint simple syrup.
Mm.
You could throw pomegranate oreos in there once it starts to simmer, and you have a pomegranate simple syrup. You can go
Interesting.
oranges, you can go limes.
It's endless.
You could do cantaloupe if you wanted to. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but you could do it. So yes, with simple syrup, it is endless as far as you want it to go. So this one says a whole tablespoon. We'll use both these guys.
Someone asked, how long will the simple syrup last in the fridge?
As long as it's cool, it'll last forever. Long time. Because it's maintained temperature. Technically, you could leave it out and it'll be okay, as long as no obstructed moisture gets in. So if you put it into a jar, like a mason jar with a lid on it, as long as no other contaminant, meaning some other type, if liqueur got in there, it's not going to grow mold. But let's say we're using it and a splash of juice fell into there. This would be considered a contaminant.
Mhm.
Why? Because if this is not refrigerated, it starts to
Issue.
grow mold. Right.
Gotcha.
So if bacteria growth is an issue, then you want to put it in the refrigerator.
Or if you live in a state that has a lot of moisture, maybe. What about like California or somewhere that has?
So as long as nothing's been added to it, the sugar water can sit on the counter, because this
Anywhere.
sits in a grocery store, travels all over the world,
Gotcha.
essentially, in this bottle.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So then all we're gonna do is we're gonna muddle. We're gonna want to break these leaves up. We're gonna want to try to crush these mint leaves as much as possible in here. And all I'm doing is just pressing and squishing. It's like making wine with mint, but not our feet.
That's probably a better, cleaner way to do it.
So once we've done this, we're gonna want
It
it
smells so good though.
very fresh.
Very fresh.
And it's hard to beat that. Like, it's just a nice summer drink. And with all these flavors, I'm imagining it's gonna be very refreshing. What was in that?
Was this just your water?
Not mine.
Oh, mine either. I have no idea where this flavors are.
So we're gonna do half a cup of white rum. We're gonna do
Half a cup of pomegranate juice
This
and
one
club
comes-
soda.
a whole cup of pomegranate.
Or one, oh, yep, 1 cup, sorry.
So we'll do 1 whole cup. And we're gonna save our soda water for after the shake. So we
Otherwise,
don't
we're
wanna,
gonna have a little accident.
it'll be all over the kitchen. Put it on, vigorous.
You don't need ice in there?
Yeah, we want to add ice. We don't, yeah, you don't necessarily, but let's do it because we want to
Someone asked,
change the molecular structure when we add ice. I don't know why or what about it, but we can learn. What was our question?
keep something in the simple syrup.
So yes, you can. So once you bring your sugar water to a boil, you can drop something in there, whether it's lemon zest, orange zest.
Mint.
You could do mint and you let it simmer, right? 10 minutes, that's it. Pull whatever you put in there out or strain out.
Okay,
And then that's how you can store that because your rinds maintain moisture. So if it's sitting on the counter, you're gonna grow bacteria,
yeah.
right? And if there's no alcohol into it, like cello, then you're not fermenting anything. If you were making cello, you would leave your rinds in there. 45 days later, you'd have limoncello. That's
Good to know.
something for a different class. A dinner I did just last month, I used limoncello and mint sorbet for dessert, and it was pretty amazing.
That sounds wonderful.
Give that a little stir there, Beth. So just like our orange, our lemon, and our limes,
Yes, I
if
see.
we roll with a little bit of pressure, when we go to cut this bad boy,
Interesting to watch you cut it, because that's the thing I don't really understand is how to cut it. It looks like a snowflake inside.
yeah, the seeds. So like
Mhm.
if you had a spoon, you can sit here and mess with them, dig them out. That's really all we're trying to do is
Get the
the
seeds out.
arrays. But if we crush it all,
They're gonna come out.
you see.
What's the white stuff called around the sides?
I believe it's the pith, just
Okay.
like an orange
Right,
or
okay.
and a lemon membrane. But I believe that's what it would be called, is the pith.
Is there a trick to picking pomegranates?
Good question.
Is there a trick to picking pomegranates? Don't
Like
get
a
ones that
ripeness?
don't get ones that are too high, because if it hits you in the head, you're not gonna like it. So what are you looking for, right? I could tell you right now that this one's probably not as ripe as you want it to be.
So this is more red?
So the darker the red, the more ripe it's gonna be.
Good to know.
Like all fruits that people really don't take into consideration, when you pick it, it will oxidize. When you pick it, it starts to ripen even more.
Right,
Hence everything, right? Your
yes.
bananas,
everything.
all that stuff.
Lemons.
Yep. So that's something you want to take into consideration. I went blueberry picking and I'm looking for all these blueberries. Oh, these aren't ready yet. Those aren't ready yet. And then halfway through, I looked at my buck and I was like, because they're oxidizing, they're turning more blue off the vine
Right.
than they are already on the vine. So then it was like, we're the biggest ones. So what you want to look for is a deep red color, almost burgundy. So if you see the juice, not quite as dark as this, but close to it, right? So if we're going to compare the two, see how bright red this is, and then how much darker this is starting to look.
Right.
So if this sat for a little bit longer, it's only going to be more ripened.
Makes sense.
So then from here, we're just going to pick through this. So that way we can just pull out any of these big white chunks. So that way they're not floating in our drink. And then we'll drop some in. And then we're able to enjoy. And there you have your pomegranate mojito.
Oh, let's see. I love that I get to taste it every time.
Unless it's bourbon.
Unless it's suburban. Oh, that's really good. Very good. Excellent.
Refreshing.
What do you guys think at home? Do you like it? It's really refreshing. Definitely refreshing. What's the difference between we use Pellegrino today versus a club soda or?
So this is gonna be a cleaner, smoother taste.
Okay,
So sparkling water is not gonna have that syrupy soda flavor to it. If that's what you want, if you want a sweeter cocktail,
then you use more of the soda.
that soda water. Yep.
Good to know.
Otherwise,
Otherwise, it's really
the
good. Very
sparkling
good.
water is nice. I think that
I like it better.
what you have right there is a better option because it is more of a refreshing flavor
Absolutely.
and not of a soda-like cocktail, right?
Right. No, I totally agree. Great. It's excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna give Steve his drink. Try.
All right, so let's clean up a little space here. We'll get moving right along to our filling empanadas. All right, so
Okay, now to the
the onto the
Empanadas.
empanadas, right? So if you'll grab a fork, well, I'm going to show you two techniques here. So our sheet pan right there. So with our doughs, see how they're separated by sheets?
yes.
You don't want to leave them out in the air because they will dry quickly. So our recipe, one at a time. Today we'll be able to do two because I'll show you how. So as you see, as I lay it down on the cutting board, all I'm going to do is place something on the closure of our package so that way it'll maintain shut. The other, I'm going to lay face down so that way we're just going to open up and roll what we need to roll, right?
Got it.
This guy, we're going to set aside. All right, so what we want to do is we want to get our empanada ready to roll. We're going to want to take some of our filling. We're not going to want to overfill. So basically a nice portion right in the middle. So I would say this is as close to a quarter of a cup.
And voila.
If we filled it, right? So this would be if we filled that. So a quarter of a cup pretty much did exactly what we want. Reason being, we don't want to tear our dough and we don't want to leave a lot of air in there. So
So you're trying to fill it to the utmost, like perfect capacity.
for the most part, right? So when you pinch it like this, so what I do is I just lightly work it so that way it pinches down. And as you see, all that filling's in there and it's nice and full. We missed a step.
We missed a step.
We need water. Water is our sealer to keep the dough together. So if you want to use a brush, I just take a little bit of water, put it on the edges, so that way when we fry, it doesn't open up on us.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting that water is the sealant for that.
Because it basically rehydrates the dough and allows it to adhere to itself. So we want to make sure we don't
Who would've
overfill, so we don't create any cracks, right? We don't
Holes.
want to tear our dough. So then I'm pressing down like such. Once you get to this stage,
Oh, we gave up.
that's all right. You're going to want to give a nice firm press. So here, the fork piece, if you take the edge of your fork and you press them together.
Kind of feeling like we're in ravioli making class. Same
You're-
concept.
You're not wrong, but yes, it is the same concept.
Come from a long line of ravioli makers.
So now, what we've got is our empanada, right?
Yep.
What I'm doing is I'm trying to secure it all into a nice tight pocket and take the air out. So see how I'm sealing it in so that way that's all nice packed
Right.
filling. And then we're gonna then,
Go a little deeper on those.
yep. And it's
Those
just
forks.
pressing it down so that way you can.
It stays there.
And then that is empanada.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead,
Absolutely.
question.
Oh, good, I can be heard. Son of a gun. I didn't know. So I've never seen nor noticed the empanada wrappings before. You buy it in the supermarket, obviously. Can you tell me how it feels to be different than like a wonton wrapper or a ravioli skin? Is it very similar? How, when cooked, or how does it feel to be different?
So empanada dough is gonna be more bread-like. Ravioli dough is gonna be pasta-like. So pasta and bread essentially has almost all the same ingredients, slightly different. The empanada is going to be thicker than a wonton skin. A wonton skin is gonna be really, really paper thin. And as far as working it, it'll be very similar to the wonton. So you got to be very delicate with it so you don't rip it. Ravioli dough, so pasta, is going to be a little more forgiving and not so delicate,
Okay.
right? So when you're working with it, you are going to want to be a little delicate with that, as opposed to like, so same kind of philosophy right here as making calzones. The difference between the two is the dough that we use and the way that we fold them. So an empanada, we're just pressing like a ravioli. A calzone, you want to roll the dough on top of itself so that way it will firmly stay shut. A calzone or a pasty. You familiar with the pasty?
Yep, I feel like it's very similar to the calzone.
It's essentially the pasty and the calzone is almost exactly the same, except one's a pie crust and the other's a pizza dough. So that's the difference between the two.
Is it
Does
a
that
little?
answer
It
the question?
Absolutely. Absolutely does. Is it also closer to a egg roll wrapper than possibly any other thing you can think of?
It would be, as far as the delicacy, yes. But
Yeah.
the dough itself is completely different than an egg roll wrapper.
And
Just
also,
because, like
have I noticed in the past that this is yellow colored, maybe tinged with turmeric, or is that not a case for empanadas?
You could put turmeric in there, that's for sure.
Right.
So I mean, basically, if you're making your own empanada dough, you can put anything you want to inside of it to add more flavor to your empanadas. If you're going more sweet, then yeah, you can add, cinnamon, clove, brown sugar. If you're going more savory, you could put thyme, rosemary, turmeric. You could put more cumin. You could put curry in it. It just goes on and on and on. So if you were adding any other ingredients into your empanada doughs as you make it, I would be using a dry spice as opposed to a fresh herb. You could use fresh herb. You're just going to want to chop it very, very fine. So like cumin is ground up very, very fine. Instead of using fresh thyme, use ground thyme.
Gotcha.
And you'll get a similar flavor. You'll get the essence of the thyme. It'll be different because obviously, as we spoke earlier, the dry spice against the fresh herb.
Got it.
Good work, and thank you so much. One last question. I think I noticed that the wrappers were 14 ounces. I believe I saw that. How many wrappers are in that package?
10.
10 and 14 ounces. Thanks so much. My first time here. Appreciate.
You got it. Excellent. Thanks for
Yes,
joining.
Thank you for joining. We love
Hey, my
having you.
pleasure.
So as you said, as you work with this, it is very similar working with a wonton wrapper just to how it is. But when you cook it up, it is more of a dough, more of a bread-like dough than a wonton wrapper. So a wonton wrapper is just kind of crispy, crunchy, and the empanada dough is going to have more texture to it.
Gotcha. So it is a little bit of a process getting them in, doing each one. So it's a good thing that we had cooked chicken.
Yeah, and that's why we decided, and even the empanada dough itself. So it does this a time saver, right? So
Oh, huge time
if
saver.
you have the time, go ahead and make it. If you don't want to, then there's an easier way around it.
I love that there's solutions out there to make it quicker, and yet you could still make it homemade, which is really, really a nice alternative.
Yeah, because essentially what we did was we took last night's chicken salad leftovers and turned it into a whole different dish, right?
Right. I love that.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Essentially, vice versa. Anything we have left over here, we could make into a soup. We can then put on top of a salad. We could make
Could be
tacos.
enchiladas.
We can make enchiladas with this. So yes,
Absolutely.
once you start, then you go, oh, you know what we could do with that? And that's
Right.
the whole purpose of repurposing your food, right? Your
Absolutely.
leftovers.
Yep.
I'll keep working on here. You want to do market
Yeah,
update?
let me grab Steve. We're gonna do a quick little market update. Guess we do it over here. Well,
Hey, why don't we do a market update?
let's do it. Let's talk about, I feel like we've slowed down a little bit in Arizona.
Oh, yeah. So guys, real estate is always local. So your local neighborhood,
Right?
not just Phoenix, but Phoenix or Glendale or Scottsdale.
Surprise.
Surprise, right? So
Gilbert.
here's the interesting thing. We had this last weekend, 25 showings and no contracts.
2 days, 2 whole days without offers. For us, that's because we do volume,
Ah!
it sends a shock wave to me for sure.
It was crazy. Now, here's the deal.
And we do have one now. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
did get one on Monday, but 2 whole days was, it's eye-opening. And I think one thing that's super important is because our team does volume, we see
lot of
what's
volume.
happening first. So other agents may sell maybe 1 home a month, or maybe not even 1 home a month. And they don't see what's happening in the market at the same level that we do, because we have these indicators by our referral appointments and our activity on our listing. So I'm constantly watching what kind of showings we're having, what kind of traffic we're getting, and what areas are getting offers on them. And that's super important in helping to assess when your home would sell.
Well, we also have a lot of listings. So when you have a lot of listings, you can monitor if you can start a little higher and work down, if you have to reduce your price right away. We call it active rejected now. So you can put it on the market and you get no traffic whatsoever. The market is rejecting it. So it's still a good time to sell. One of the things we saw locally here in Phoenix is there was a recent article that said we had a price drop for the
Mhm.
first time in a long time. But when you actually look at houses for sale, you have a combination of both new homes
Right.
and resale. And the people that absorbed the most loss was the new home builder. They immediately had the opportunity to adjust their price by probably 5 to 10%
Yep, absolutely.
right away, where a typical resale homeowner, you wanted to come down nothing or maybe 2%. So as it all kind of blended in, we saw a decrease of about 3 or 4%, depending on where you are. So the builders absorbed those losses, and now the builders in some areas are actually holding their prices and now raising them, aren't they?
Right. They started also, they had a lot of inventory or homes that inventory spec homes that they could sell. And they've kind of burned through a bunch of that. So we're seeing less active builder homes that you could just move into today and more that are going to take full build cycle.
Right, and they call that move-in ready. And again, depending if it's Buckeye or Avondale or the Southeast Valley, we have agents in every single one of those areas. And we also know the inside scoop, if you will, on any homes that are having to fall out of escrow.
Right.
Right? So still a great time to sell.
Absolutely. They
Great
still have
time to
low
buy.
inventory. So if you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of active listings, it would be a great opportunity to get your home on the market now.
But here's the deal, guys. We need to put our best foot forward. We need to make sure we do the things that need to be done to a home. It's not multiple offers in an hour. So now we just have to put our best foot forward and listen to our agents and listen to Beth. She's the staging queen. Beth really knows how to get a house ready for sale and how to make it look ready for sale, not something that you live in, which is completely different, right?
Totally different. We live one way. I mean, even our house, we live a certain way, but if I was going to sell my home, I would have it staged differently.
Yeah. And here's the last thing, guys. Wealth building next month.
Yes.
We have the master class.
Very excited about that. We can really talk about how you can leverage into a new home that you're going to have as an investment.
Yeah, so here's the deal, guys. We're going to talk about investing. We're going to talk about the habits. We're going to talk about people that have actually been there, done that have over $1 million a year in passive income. So we're going to stand on the shoulder of giants and go with the people that have lived before us and go deep into things like cost segregation, which is one of your favorite topics.
It is. It's a great way to
Why?
speed up depreciation
Yeah.
and take advantage while you are making more income to take that depreciation today.
Okay, so guys, we look so forward to seeing you next month for the wealth building masterclass. We'll make sure we send that to you.
Isn't that next week?
Is it next week or next month? I think it's next week. Look here on your sheet.
Nope.
Oh.
Someone moved it.
Wait a minute. Look here on the
Sheet. What is the date? That is May 18th, everybody. So that's next week.
we're ready. This is why we always have the prompter. This is a stagnant teleprompter. So it's next week on Thursday.
Yes, it is. 13th, I don't think that's Thursday. Is it Thursday? Yeah, it is Thursday. Right, we're leaving town on Friday, so Thursday, May 18th.
See, we do this impromptu, guys, so you get to see it live
We
and
don't know
not
what we're talking about.
staged. So,
But next month, we have our cooking event. So that's where you would probably have originally headed to.
Where
That
are we
is
going
June
next month?
13th, and we're doing Spanish paella. So we're super excited about that. It'll
Bueno.
be really good, really
All
good.
right, guys.
So look forward
I
to seeing you
think the
there.
chef is calling you back. Do you, chef? Are you doing some stuff over there?
I'm ready if you're ready.
We're ready to go.
All right, guys, don't forget, we can't wait to see you. And if you need any information regarding real estate, give us a call or give Beth a call.
Absolutely.
602-315-8749.
We look forward to talking to you soon, and let's get cooking.
Let's get cooking.
All right. So I've got our empanadas. We got some ready to roll. I have a utensil that we're going to be able to flip the empanada
Okay,
in the fryer. If it can fully submerge, we will be fine. I believe we're not gonna be able to, so we will flip it once. We'll go from there. I got the oil back on the heat. We want to bring that back up to temperature so that way we're frying at about 350. Okay.
okay. So what's the temperature? Are we putting it on medium?
I got it on medium. It's been going for a little while. Always we like to do a test. So if we grab this dough, we see how there's no bubble whatsoever. That's okay.
We gotta be a little warmer.
Yep. So it's coming up. When we do that, what we'll do is we'll slice our plantains.
Perfect.
So what we'll do here is we'll make a slit. Should be able to open it nice and easy.
How's everybody keeping up? Do you get anyone out there have questions while we're doing this?
Like a banana. So you see the texture is very, very
Very,
similar,
Very similar.
but it does not taste the same.
Camille said she's looking forward to the wealth class. Her and her husband are gonna attend.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
We love to see you there. Thank you so much.
So you see, it is a little firmer than the banana, so it will withstand that frying process. Yep. So for these guys, what we want to do is we want to determine how big do we want our plantains, right? How long do we want to fry them for?
Right, I guess that's the.
We
other
want to
question.
fry them pretty quickly.
Mhm.
So since they're going to be like chips, we're going to cut them on a bias. We're going to cut them on a good angle like this. We're going to go about a 1/4 inch thick. That's actually like a really good thickness because we want them to be fried, but we don't want them to be too chunky and we don't want them to be too thin so that way they just turn to mush while we're frying them. So we'll just try to keep them pretty uniform so that way they'll stay
And cook evenly.
same. Yep. You can cut them on long as a bias as you want to. Take the top off. So if we wanted to, we can make them really long. That, see that?
Mhm.
Is that cut you're doing just preference?
No, this would be a good way to cut them.
Okay.
Reason being is you'll be frying a lot more if we just cut it straight down like that.
Cause they'd be thicker.
No, there will be more to fry.
Quantity.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you want your chip to be like this. Also, you see from this side to this side, it's relatively the same in thickness, right? And you see as we go down the plantain, we kind of adjust as we need to so that way it can continue to have that cut. But you want to have a nice chip instead of a little tiny.
Round one.
Right.
That makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
It will present better.
Yeah, it'll be easier to eat.
Got it.
Let's see where we're at here. I don't see any ripple yet, but we're getting there. That's our indicator. We got to turn the heat up, which is fine.
We're getting ready to go.
So what I have in preparation for this, I have 2 plates. I have with our paper towel is just to absorb any of the grease that we pull out of it, right? We just want to make sure that with our plantains, once we remove them from the heat, we're just going to want to sprinkle them with salt. And we want to do that while they're hot so that way the salt will stick to that hot plantain.
Interesting.
If not, like a French fry,
Right.
it'll just bounce off, or a tortilla chip.
Okay.
If you don't salt
Salt it
it
when
while
it's
it's hot, it's just gonna fall all over, and then you got a pile of salt in the bowl and nothing on
Nothing
it.
on your chip. Gotcha. Good to know. I don't think I really understood that, although I know I saw it that way. When you see all that salt in the pan, you're wondering why.
Right.
Bowl. Why not?
So if you are taking the healthy option, right now would be the time where you take an egg and just beat it up, add a little bit of water to it, and then you're gonna brush your empanada,
Gotcha.
right? A nice even little coat. You want
Just one
your,
side or both, two sides?
just the one
Just-
side,
okay.
just the one side that's facing up.
Gotcha.
You're, like I said, if you're doing a whole egg, which is typically what you're gonna do, you're not gonna do half an egg, right? A tablespoon of water to one egg should be more than enough. All you're doing is thinning out the egg enough to where it'll lightly coat the
The top of
product. Exactly. If it's too much water, then it just kind of runs off of it. Right? So if you wanted to start with half a tablespoon and see if it looks still too thick, as you like take your spoon or your fork and lift it up, if it's still not separated enough or not beaten enough, whip it a little more, add a little more water, and then that way you should be able to brush into the oven and you're ready to go. What you're looking for is that golden brown. Once you get to that, it's probably gonna be 6 to 8 minutes. Our chicken's cooked inside fully, so we don't have to worry about any of that. The only thing we are concerned about is if it's doughy in the middle. So what you're gonna look for is if it's browned on the outside here and here, you'll notice right here is where you can tell if this whole back piece right here looks fully cooked, chances are everything in the middle is fully cooked.
Interesting. Okay.
So you can use this as your gauge essentially of if you're there or you're not there. Almost like when you're cooking a steak or something, you
can tell.
utilize that gauge to say, ooh, when we sear, oh, that's too much or that's not enough. Let's sear it a little more.
Interesting.
Yep.
Even with this, it's very different, but the similar concept,
Yeah, principles.
principles.
There we
go.
go.
I see it. Bubbles.
Let's go ahead and let's.
So gently put them in.
And since our oil's on hot, we are going to monitor it. We are going to want to make sure it doesn't get too hot, but we also want to remember as we add this to it, we're going to cool down the oil, right? So as you see, if it fully sat in there, we wouldn't have to flip it. But since we have this top piece, we're going to need to flip it and probably give them about maybe 2 minutes. We're just going to keep an eye on them to see how long roughly it's going to take before we need to flip it.
And you don't want to set, you don't want to put too much in your pan.
You never want to overcrowd it, right? So with this, we could drop another one in there, but we're wanting to see how long it's going to take. And that's what this process is. So if you do the one, it's usually an indication of how long it's going to take. So as you see, we've got a nice little brownness there. But see how it's still really pale in here? The reason being it got brown there is because where it's sitting on the flame, right? That direct heat. That's why having an evenly heated pan will allow you to cook with that evenly. So we'll put it for this side here. We'll then flip it again, and then we'll do one more time.
Gotcha.
So just by what we did right now, we gave it probably 1 minute on each side.
Right.
Is about what we did. So if we gave it probably 90 seconds aside, we might be exactly where we want to be. So you see how much
Oh, yeah,
faster
much
that
better.
side did,
Yeah.
right?
Also, because we cooled it down, when we first set them in, maybe.
So like basting on it will help that process of that little bubble. But as you see, this one here, look how much faster that's browned up now.
Yep.
See that? So let's give it another second on that side. So you can really tell like right here. See the dough? I mean, we can see that the dough's pretty raw still,
Exactly.
but we can see that this dough's cooked
Exactly.
really, really well. So
Right,
let's
all the
flip
way
that guy over. So this one now you can see how consistent the brown is, which means on the inside too has that same cooked texture.
Right.
Not the crispiness on the outside, but the dough is cooked.
Right.
Remember the difference of the empanada dough compared to a wonton is this is going to be more bread-like when you eat it. And then the wonton dough is going to be like straight crispy all the way from wherever there's no moisture or any product on the inside, right?
Gotcha.
So wontons, when you just cut them up and fry them, really, really crispy. If you do like crab rangoons or egg roll, wherever there's that product,
Mhm.
whatever the filling is, not as crispy as the rest, right?
Right.
Yep. So, I mean, what did we go? Maybe 3 minutes for the whole process,
Yeah,
roughly?
like that.
Yeah. And we're
and they look nice and evenly cooked and
and what we're really looking for too is the oil, right? We want to make sure we're not getting the oil super, super hot. As you saw, it looked like it was, but we realized, oh no, we're maintaining a good temperature by this brown spot that started here, but the rest of it was cooking evenly, right? So now that we are up and running, we're gonna slightly turn it down, not a lot, but just a little bit. And as you can see, since we are at the temperature we're really wanting to be at, the process is gonna be a lot faster, as you see. So same thing, we're still giving it. You can tell the difference of the two, still really pale. It's creating air pockets, which is the little bubbles that pop up.
right.
But then this one, so this one only had maybe 10 to 15 more seconds after I flipped this one, and the difference between the two, right?
Right. So,
So-
not much time is needed extra.
And also, so watching that and making sure if it's getting too brown too fast, turn the heat down.
Right.
And that's what you're wanting to focus on. Give that another second. Yeah, so like that cherry jubilees that we did
Yes.
inside of here, delicious.
Ooh. So it could be a dessert empanada.
Absolutely. It's anything can go in.
Right. So
Anything
you could
you
do
want.
sweet, savory,
It
any
could
of the
be
combination.
vegetarian, so it could just be like olives and mushrooms and spinach and sun-dried tomatoes and feta cheese.
I was
and-
gonna say, can you do cheese?
Oh
in
my
here?
goodness, delicious, right? Just remembering any more moisture we add, you want to be cautious in the frying process.
Right.
If you're adding like zucchini and spinach into it, baking it, it's gonna be harder because it'll release that moisture on the inside
Right.
and not allow it to cook really. Frying it, if any of that moisture gets out and into the fryer, is where you create all that piece. So it's endless
Got it.
with what you can put in your empanadas. Some duck, I don't know I don't know how,
I can't. I've never tried one either. So for
I
me,
don't
this
know
would
how
be
crazy you want to get.
Good to try the dough.
I mean, we're gonna do a duck a la orange later this year, so
Oh,
any
exciting.
leftovers, throw it into the empanada class. And
There
we're in
you have it.
business, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Don't forget, we gotta make a few pork.
I know, I got them. Yeah, I got them set. So you see, yeah, you see, it's 3-4 minutes total. If you notice, we turn the heat down a little bit. It's allowed the oil to stay at a maintained heat
Right.
and not like rapidly. So right there, this is an example. We have popped into the center, which means we got to get that guy out. So all that moisture that's in there, if it was bubbling like that, that's water content.
Okay. That's something got out.
Yeah, that's just any of that moisture of that chicken. As soon as that empanada dough was cracked open
Penetrated.
and any liquid that came out, you'll know right away. Oh, whoa, wait a minute.
Got it. Pull it out.
Yeah, get it out.
Those look perfect. They look so good. You make it look so easy because I'm not a big fryer.
All right, so we got that ready. Okay, then our plantains. These guys you're gonna want to be a little careful with. It's not crazy, but you do want to be cautious. So our oil's nice and hot. You're gonna drop them in. It's the same thing. These are a quick and fast process. We don't want to overload it, but we are gonna be able to put more in here than.
Okay. How's everybody doing out there? Are you guys done? Is anybody finished yet? Because it's taking us a little bit longer on our end. But just wanted to see how you're doing. Anybody have anything to share? A photo of your dinner? Because I know we're kind of wrapping it up here, but I bet some of you could be ahead of time. And what'd you think of that cocktail tonight? Let us know your thoughts.
There was a lot of good feedback on the mojito.
Great.
I have a question. I
Yeah,
noticed
go
that
ahead.
others have used plantains when they are completely black. I noticed that yours were green. Do you have something to?
You're gonna want them to be. You're gonna want them to be riper than that even. So yes, if they are black here, you're totally okay. And the only reason being is the sugars have been released. They're going to be sweeter because a plantain is, I'm not say bitter, but it's very bland. The less ripe that it is.
Yeah, so optimally, you'd actually want them to be particular.
Yeah, almost the darker the better. So
It's
as
not
you,
gonna make them more mushy like it would.
Like a
be
banana, yeah.
Right.
so as you see, we've got some that are popping out here. And what we're looking for here is, do you see how these are rapidly boiling? You see this guy here, see how the boil here and this guy's not boiling as much? That means most of the moisture has been fried out of that. That's when we're ready to pop it out. If we let them sit in any longer, we're just soaking in the oil. We don't want to do that. So I flipped them all so that way they can cook pretty evenly on all sides.
Could you make this recipe in an air fryer?
So yes, you could. If you were gonna do this in an air fryer, what you would do is you would just take your oil and you would just mix it onto your raw plantain, single layer in your air fryer. I would do the highest setting, which is typically 400, and then just start off with a time. So for these, I would probably start with like 4 minutes at 400 and then check them after 2 to see where you're at. Because if they're almost ready in 3 minutes, you want to make sure you catch that before you let the timer go off and your plantains aren't what you were looking for, right? So you see, just about as they're done, a little bit of salt. We're just gonna lightly salt them as they're hot, so then that way it'll stick. Ready to go.
All right. Let's
Plate it up.
Chimichurri right there. I didn't see it at first either. I'm like, where is it? You want a spoon? The plating's always the presentation's always good.
It's the best.
It is.
So we'll just let that fall where it falls. Get some of our plantains. Seems so young.
A little color on. Oh, look at that.
I'd say leave it at that.
Wow. Look at this, everybody. This is beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, wow. Now you know why we have the chef night.
so
Hey,
amazing.
hey.
Thank you all for
Another amazing creation.
I would have thought it was Christmas.
I know, it is very Christmas-like.
Take a look at that, take a look at that, and then we've got something to share. So guys, this is an interactive show, right?
Absolutely.
Anything you want, anything you guys want,
Absolutely.
we can create for you. You know, my son Alexander said, Dad, you guys do a really good job on this chef night, but how do I take like one meal and make it 3 meals? How do I stretch it for my homies, for my roommates, for my guys? So chef, you and I, we know how to do that.
Absolutely. And
We
that's
are-
something that we're working on putting together where we could take a rotisserie chicken from Costco for, what's it, $4.99 and turn it into 3 meals. So our goal is, and I'm working on it, to produce a week's worth of menus
Yes,
for $100
Yes.
Isn't that a great idea for,
to feed a family of 4 for each meal.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So I used to do a whole month, chef.
Right.
Because, you know, my dad would say, hey, I want the whole month and you get to go to the store once a week other than, you know, to get milk, right, and eggs. And I'm telling you, it teaches you how to save money.
Absolutely.
And how to utilize the product. Like we said, we
And no
started
weight,
off.
less weight.
Right.
We started
No
off with
waste.
one thing and we ended up with 3 other meals and we didn't do any more preparation.
Right.
Simple, right? And that's what we want to teach everyone is it's versatile. If you see a recipe and you're like, oh, I don't like that, you can replace it with something else.
Absolutely.
You can pretty much take it out of the equation. If you look at an empanada recipe, like, ooh, I'm not sure about the dough, you're looking at a different recipe. But other than that, it's
Put
very versatile.
anything in there.
It's very versatile. We
So
wanna teach
share-
everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Share all your photos online. We know it's late and thank you guys so much for joining. And
Go Suns!
And the Suns, I think, are on
Woo!
tonight, so
We're
we'll be
live. We need the Suns to win. And yes, with all of us tonight eating empanadas, go Suns!
everybody have a great night.
Good
Thank
night,
you so much
everyone.
for joining. Have a great evening.